I got a new intro. Not a new intro, but a new segment intro. It's not my idea. I've always just been going on here and I'll just like talk about stuff, but I do have different segments, right? And so Goblin Queen, the Goblin Queen made me do it. I'll just show you. Ready? All right, here we go. I don't know. We'll find out.
Obsidian is a powerful note-taking application.
So I've been using Obsidian app for a while now.
Obsidian has officially won the Note Awards.
This is Obsidian.
This is Obsidian, and we're on this part now. So now, I guess from now on, we'll do that. And also, check it out. At the bottom corner, it's got like branding. Gobsidian? I mean, of course. I had to do it, you know? I had to do that. I didn't have any other choice. What else am I going to do?
Great, red dupe.
I don't know. What? There's a little goblin face with like little cracks all over him, and it's supposed to sort of look like the Obsidian logo. That's what it kind of looks like, but it's purple. Anyway, you guys wouldn't get it. But this has been a kind of a dramatic week for news, for Anthropic and government and the surveillance state and whatever, because we heard a lot about this, and it was all hearsay before, about the fallout between Dario Amodei and what's the guy's name? Emil Michael, who's the undersecretary of the Department of War. So he's like, I guess Pete Hegseth's, I don't know what to call him, like second in command or whatever. This dude on the left. And it's funny. A lot of people, like when I was reading him, I was like, this feels like I'm reading like breakup texts, like at some points. Like it is, the way they're talking to each other is very funny. To me, this absolutely these are breakup texts, and it's a little awkward to read, but I feel like we deserve to know this. So over here, we got the one party, and you got to pick a side. You got to pick a side here. Even though if this were a real couple between Anthropic and the Pentagon, I think everyone would be like, that couple fucking sucks. Why are we friends with either of them? Don't invite them places. Oh my God, you invited them to this party, dude? What? Why? They suck, man. One of them's like trying to create an AI god. One of them's trying to fucking destroy the world. One of them's fully just a redesigned American imperialism to benefit, instead of the full elite, just Donald Trump and his family and friends. But anyway, enough said about that. This is the one guy, Emil Michael. Michaels? No. Michael. Just one Michael. A single Michael. Emil Single Michael over here. He's born in Egypt, but grew up in the US. Okay, I checked out his resume because I wanted to know a little bit about this dude. So here's going into it. Here's what we're dealing with. He went to Harvard. He got a bachelor's in government. Apparently, that's a degree you can get, government. Then he was the president of the Harvard Republican Club. He wrote for the Crimson, the newspaper there. He went to Stanford for law school. It's the same place as Peter Thiel. Interestingly, I don't know if that means anything. After he graduated law school, he went to Goldman Sachs, and he specialized in doing consultancy work for hostile takeovers, corporate hostile takeovers and mergers. Interesting. In 1999, he quit Goldman Sachs and became an executive at this software called Tell Me, which is a voice recognition software. It's sold to Microsoft for $800 million in 2007. Not sure how much he would have got, but he would have got a nice chunk of change out of that, I'm sure. 2009, he became the special assistant to U.S. Defense Secretary Robert Gates at the Pentagon. So he worked in the Pentagon back then. Robert Gates was like head of the CIA for a while. Anyway, Republican, whatever, but they're deep state shit. Next, he became the COO of a social credit score app, Clout. It's so fucking bizarre looking back at this period of time, at all the fucking startups and all the apps. And it's just like all the ones that you don't know. Like anytime you hear about a failed, whatever, social media attempt at a new fucking app startup from this sort of period, it's always like the most dystopian thing you can imagine, but it's all dressed up like, it'll be great. And this one is one of those where it's like Clout with a K, Klout. And it is like examines your like social media. Let me see if I can actually dig it up. Clout app. Let's quickly see this. Clout, there was the thing. Oh, is it still up? A website and mobile app that use social media analytics to rate its users according to online social influence via the Clout score, a numerical value between 1 and 100. In determining the user score, Clout measured the size of a user's social media network and correlated the content created to measure how other users interact with that content. Oh, wow, cool. Very fun. Clout used Bing, Facebook, Foursquare, Google+, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Wikipedia, and YouTube data to create Clout user profiles that were assigned a Clout score. Yeah, this is horrible. No, don't do that. Clout scores ranged from 1 to 100, with higher scores corresponding to a higher ranking of the breadth and strength of one's online social influence. While all Twitter users were assigned a score, users who registered at Clout could link multiple social networks. Who would want to do that? Why would you want to? I guess people want to see their number and be like, my Clout is bigger than you. And this is the website. And it's not. It's been taken over. Clout now redirects to Koros.ai. Who knows what that is? Anyway, yeah, it seems like a Black Mirror episode. Yeah, Darklink. You know what? That's actually not a bad point. Clout's the exact same algorithm as all the other ones, except it doesn't shadow ban you. It tells you how it calculates how many see you. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, social credit score in the Obama era. Yeah, for real. I mean, this guy worked for the Obama administration in the Department of Defense at the Pentagon anyway. Moving on, Clout. Whatever. 2013, though, he joined Uber and he became effectively the second in command at Uber. He was the senior VP of business, was known to be the right-hand man of the Uber CEO, Travis Kalanick. Travis Kalanick, let's just call him. 2014, he joined the Pentagon's Defense Business Board. So he's still working at Uber. He worked for Uber for a long time. There's a bunch of scandals over at Uber while he was there. Don't need to get into those. But he, while he was there, he was also serving on the Pentagon Defense Business Board. So he was an advisor to the Pentagon about the private sector. So this is a guy who's been, look at his fucking grin, eh? Ugh, oh God. Jeez, I don't like that. I hope I never make eye contact with somebody making this face. I would be scared. Too scary. He's the guy now who works for the Pentagon. He's like directly below Pete Hegseth. And he was the guy, and it makes sense based on his experience in these two worlds, the Pentagon and the tech, whatever, startup business, blah, blah, blah space. He was the go-between for Anthropic and the Pentagon. And also I'll mention, so this thing, obviously it all fell apart, but I'll also mention that this dude, he reaped millions of dollars selling XAI stock because he had all this insider fucking information. Totally legal, I guess. Like, you're just allowed to do this. And we don't really know how much he made because Grok, what's it called? XAI, rather, is not a publicly traded company. So we don't really know how much he made, but we know it was millions. It could have been anywhere from $1 million to $24 million. And he did this, he sold it at exactly the right time, knowing the deals that like the Pentagon was doing with XAI. So this guy's a piece of shit. All right. He's a piece of shit. All right. So I'm talking about taking sides here between first, I mean, obviously the Pentagon is the United States Pentagon, this is a fucking terrorist organization. This is the world's leading fucking terrorist organization. This guy, his whole business is the military industrial complex. This guy wants there to be wars, as many wars as possible, so that he can use all this fucking connections he has and make a bunch of money for Palantir and Anthropic or whoever happens to be serving them up the tech, Raytheon, whatever. All these weapons, defense contractors. Oh, thank you. Yes, talking about how handsome the guy is. Yeah, no, nice evil lighting. Yeah. The lighting there is crazy. But all right. So I got this article from the Wall Street Journal that was helpful. It kind of goes through a lot of the main things. But you can also just read through the entire, these have been released as part of the lawsuit between Anthropic and Pentagon. Because Anthropic is suing Pentagon. And they release this huge document and it goes through lots and lots of emails. It's kind of hard to read. What I find frustrating is it seems like they're constantly sending each other attachments and only some of the attachments are included and the attachments aren't dated. So it's hard to tell what email the attachment is coming from. But a couple cases, I think I did figure it out. But yeah, let's just I'll go through the timeline here, starting from the beginning, and we'll get into what happened in the aftermath, because there's a lot of drama here. By the way, before we get into this, a good way to think of Anthropic, they like to think of themselves, and a lot of people think of them as the good guy, the nice AI tech company that is trying to create an AI god, but they're trying to do it the right way, you know? Like they're practicing god birth the right way. And to an extent, like I don't even disagree with that. I think that Dario is probably less evil than Sam Altman, but the best way to think of him as like clean coal, where it's like, yeah, it's better than OpenAI, it's better than Sam Altman, but it's still fucking horrible. It still sucks. It's still brutal that like this kind of guy is allowed to do his thing and he's allowed to whatever. Like, how good can this guy be that he would even be negotiating with the Pentagon in the first place to give them a bunch of shit? You know what I'm talking about? Anyway, we almost lived in a world where people touted their clout score instead of their Uber rider rating on Tinder profiles in 2017. Damn. Imagine Tinder was like automatically hooked up to clout. You couldn't even opt in or out. That would be crazy. Whoa, that would be nuts. So I got them sort of separated here, so you'll be able to tell. On the left is Emil Michael. On the right, Dario Amodei. So it's like that, right, left, right. So here we go. So Emil says, 3 weeks since I heard from you last. This is from in January 2026. Dario was a little sick around Christmas time. He had a flu. And his emails are like, sorry, I couldn't get to you back earlier. I have a flu that just won't go away. Anyway, so Emil messages him on January, New Year. He goes, it's been about 3 weeks since I heard from you last. Hope we're closer to engaging with your revised POV. Can you give me a sense of where Anthropic is on the key topics we've been discussing? And Dario goes, we believe these boundaries set important guardrails against using powerful AI models for domestic mass surveillance against Americans without impeding the vital foreign intelligence and national security functions of the Department of War. So yeah, okay, so there's two things that Dario doesn't want to let the Pentagon do, okay? He's like, no, I think it's really important that we give you the best possible AI in order to defend against nefarious outside actors that may want to attack the United States on whatever AI they have access to, right? But he wants to draw the line in two places. Number one, we need to build guardrails around domestic mass surveillance against Americans. Obviously, it's okay to surveil people in other countries, but not here. And the other one was fully autonomous weapons, like drones or whatever. Like those were the two things that Dario was against. They kept like updating the contract and sending it over, and the Pentagon would be like, no, don't do this. And this is a back and forth. Pentagon at this point is already using Claude. Like they're already partnered with Anthropic. Actually, Anthropic's partnered with Palantir, and the two of them are in business with the Pentagon together. Anyway, next, Emil gets back to him. The most recent proposal you sent, however, is just not workable, as it was both inconsistent with our basic voiced principles and expanded in many ways the complexity. Example, adding a reporting requirement to Anthropic for Department of War vis-a-vis our own manuals/policies. Also, like they keep calling it the Department of War. It's so weird reading like articles about this because it's apparently that isn't what it's actually called yet. It's not actually called. It's not like it's unofficial. It's unofficially called the Department of War, but that is always how Emil Michael calls it. That's what Dario calls it. That's what Sam Altman calls it. That's what everyone involved in this calls it, the Department of War. But when you read like articles, it'll call it like the Department of Defense, known by some like unofficially as the Department of War. Like the articles, whatever, I guess like they have their style guides or whatever. They don't like calling it the Department of War. And like, you know, it's almost like, I feel like maybe some people are like, it's not called that yet, or they still want to call it the Department of Defense. Sort of like how I don't really want to call Twitter X. But like, the thing is, I actually kind of like the Department of War better. Like, I feel like that is more truthful. Like, that is what it is. It's not the Department of Defense. It's fully I would rather it be called the Department of Terrorism, you know, but okay, hey, I'll take Department of War over Department of Defense any day. Anyway, I think we should have one more chance to align on core principles that will lead the legal language before it becomes not a good use of time for you or the DOW. Now that's relationships stuff, you know? It's like, listen, like, I don't want to waste your time, you know? Like, I certainly don't waste my own time. I think that, you know, if we can't come together, that's okay. Okay. If we can't align on core principles, you know, that's on me. That's not on you. You know, I just want to save you time. Like, you could do so much better than me. You could do so much better than the Pentagon, Dario. Really. I'm serious. I know you have, self-esteem issues, but I promise if you put yourself out there, there's no end to the national military contracts you could make. Okay, think big. A lot of people like the clean coal of AI. Anyway, so then Dario goes, Emil, thank you for your last note. I respect your position. So here's what he's like. This is pretty much the last chance, not his last swing at the fences here, but he's like, here's what I need. If we want to stay together, I need this. Okay, this is my ultimatum. Under these terms, Anthropic would provide our models to the DoW with fewer restrictions than for any other customer. We would enable support for weapons development, offensive cyber operations, and many other applications. We believe that these terms are consistent with our track record of commitment to national security. Anthropic was the first company to tailor frontier AI for the national security community and also to put advanced AI capabilities in the hands of U.S. defense and intelligence users on classified networks. Okay, so there it is right there. They're okay with using it for weapons development. There's an email that I couldn't find, or maybe they had a meeting or they spoke on the phone or something, right? Where Dario said, hey, I'm okay with doing defensive weapons, but I don't want it being used for offensive weapons. Okay? Which might make sense, but the problem is there is no such thing as a defensive weapon. There's no difference. And that is exactly what Dario explains. And this is the whole thing. Like, this is a very common conversation that I've had, talking to people about the Iron Dome and shit like that. And well, it's okay to send money to Israel for defensive technology. It's okay to send money to Israel to do this. As long as they're not bombs, it's no, it's the same thing. There is no actual differentiation. Yes, the Iron Dome is going to shoot down rockets or whatever, but there's no way to be okay, well, we gave them all this money and they're only going to spend it on the Iron Dome. It's okay, they spent all that money on the Iron Dome, but that means they still have other money that is given to them or by the US or whoever that they can spend on offensive weapons. There isn't a meaningful difference. It's just an excuse to send more money to Israel. Why don't we send defensive money to Gaza then? Why don't we let them build their own dome? It doesn't make sense. But Emil is extremely direct about this, as Tarun noted in our in-person meeting. So, okay, why didn't I read that? That's why I couldn't find it in an email. This was from a real meeting that they had. In our in-person meeting, there is no distinction in our world between weapons that are defensive or offensive. Example, a drone that takes down other drones can potentially do other activity. Additionally, while I understand the desire to have a human be able to, forgot to do the voice. Let me try this. Additionally, while I understand the desire to have a human be able to disable the system, there are many, many use cases beyond those which can be imagined in a department of 3 million people. For example, any attack on the US or our troops by anything capable of hypersonic speeds, or that otherwise do not give a human time to respond in any reasonable way, due to distance or a stealth attack. So he's like, yeah, there's no, what the fuck are you talking about? No. And then Dario goes, the department does have authorities to conduct domestic surveillance under the law, hence our proposed restrictions. So a couple of different things here. Emil is talking about, okay, we need to make sure that, how Dario's saying, we can't just have automatic weapons. We can't have guns fired off by Claude and there's no human involvement at all. We can't do that. I don't want to do that. And he's like, yeah, but that's not going to work. There's so many different things that could happen. We will need to have our fucking AI agents just do shit sometimes. And that's fucked up. I will say, reading through the emails, this guy seems like the bigger asshole for sure. Because he's just not listening to him at all and pressuring him so hard to do the thing. But Dario is a fucking idiot. He's a moron that he ever thought he could work with the Pentagon and be well, we're not going to kill anyone, right? Okay, I'll let you use my robot, but you don't make him do anything evil. Please. It's you are talking to the most evil fucking organization on planet Earth. And you're but don't use it for bad guy stuff. It's you're making a deal with fucking Sauron or whatever. And you're like, okay, I'm going to make you this ring, but don't use it to enslave the elves. Okay. Sauron, you promise? Crazy stuff here. And then here he's talking about the surveillance thing because he keeps trying to be like, no, come on, man. We don't want you to do the surveillance domestically. You can surveil anyone you want outside of America, but don't do that. And he's like, Emil keeps saying, we will not break any laws with it. We will not break any surveillance laws. And he's like, but that's the problem. A lot of the laws say surveillance is okay. It's awesome. And then dug this one up. So here he is, responding to that. This is when Dario's in India for an AI, convention. He goes, as for the mass surveillance topic, I was clear that the DOW will comply with all applicable laws and regulations, and they've always said so. At this point, I don't think there's further discussion to be had. As I've always said, and again, I'm getting like breakup text vibes, and you're like you're both just sending long texts to each other, and just going in circles, pouring out emotions, but still not really getting anywhere in an actual conversation. At this point, I don't think there's any further discussion to be had. I've always said this. We will comply with all applicable laws and regulations. As I've always said, even the mention of it is therefore unnecessary in the contract, but I was trying to be responsive to your sensitivity on it. It's so funny that he puts it like this. Like they're sending over these like red line contracts where it's like most of the text is in black from the original contract, and then any changes that get made are in red. So you can actually see what Anthropic was okay with, what they wanted to add. And I usually come away thinking Dario is a well-meaning guy, but like a complete idiot who does not understand what he's like. He doesn't grasp the situation that he's in. He's like, AI is going to be a new god, but we want to make it a good god. And I think who's really going to help us make it a good god is people in the fucking Trump administration and like big corporations. And, they're the guys that are going to help me make this thing good. Whereas this guy's just like, yes, hello, I'm evil, and I'd like to make as much money as possible while I'm in the Trump department. Seems like that's kind of okay. Seems like everyone's sort of on board with that idea. And I will talk to you and I will tell you exactly what Pete Hegseth wants to hear. And if you don't say yes, we will fuck you. We will fuck you over. So here he is being like, I did everything you asked, even though he didn't do any. He's just like, like I said, we're not going to break any laws. Meanwhile, right before he's like, yeah, but that's not good enough because the Department of War can surveil people. Like, I don't want that. Anyway, moving on. So this is February 26th. So this is like right before Pete Hegseth had given Dario a deadline. He's basically said, by February 26th, you need to agree to everything that we're saying, or we will kick you off of the project. Like, you're done. So this is the deadline. So this is like the day of the deadline. Thanks for your message. I appreciate your efforts. Unfortunately, our read of your proposed language is that it appears to completely remove our red lines. So it's like their edits. The autonomy provision is fully undercut by your addition of as appropriate. So it's like look at this too. It's like he had this whole thing about we're not allowed to kill anyone automatically. There has to be human involvement. And then Emil's like, yeah, as appropriate. And the surveillance provision is fully undercut by and all other applicable laws. It's like, this simply amounts to a blanket posture of anything lawful, and the statement from the Pentagon spokesman confirms that this is the intent. I unfortunately don't see a way forward given these categorical statements. And then this is also how he always sounds too, Dario. We remain deeply committed to supporting the department's mission and U.S. national security as confirmed by our longstanding track record and our ongoing and intensive work with the department. I hope that you will consider the terms we have offered, but should the department decide to offboard us, please know that we stand ready to do whatever we can to ensure full operational continuity for the department and our troops who depend on our technology. Given the volume of leaks and media requests we are receiving, we'll be issuing a public statement, but as ever, hope it is still possible to reach agreement. All right. So I cannot think of a guy as like a good guy if he's Yeah, okay. He stood up for two things that are admittedly horrifying. I agree. We shouldn't have outsourced murder to a robot. Who do you hold accountable? If a robot commits a war crime, whose fault is it? Is it the last human to give him an order, even if the robot disobeys that order and does something fatal? Is it the programmer? Is it Dario for programming or for whatever, being the CEO of the company that built the robot and trained it? Who do we blame? Like it's actually very philosophically difficult to have an answer for that, like a consistent answer. For that reason, it's just unethical to even do it at all because it will just allow, I don't know, US already gets away with whatever it wants, really. But while I agree with what he's saying, yeah, we should be doing surveillance. We shouldn't be, whatever, using robots to attack people. I have to say, those are not the only issues with partnering with the Pentagon. And all through the thing, he's like, he's like, yes, you can do this, you can do that, you can do this, you can do that, you can do this. I only have two things I don't want you to do. And it's like, well, okay, but those other Dario, those other things that you agreed to, they are still evil. Like you're still on the bad guy team. All right, so that's February 26th. Now get this. Everything happens all at once on February 27th. Just hours apart, we get these two New York Times articles. Trump orders government to stop using Anthropic after Pentagon standoff. So Trump is like, we're done. We are not using Anthropic at all for anything. Stop. The company clashed with the military over how officials wanted to use its cutting-edge AI model. Then hours later, look who reaches an agreement with them. OpenAI, Sam Altman. So this dude runs the other big AI company, the biggest one, at least, by investment. And immediately, like hours after, because they were still in negotiations until this message the day before. And then as soon as Trump is like, you're done, they missed their deadline, you're out of here, Anthropic. OpenAI, like they must have been working with them behind the scenes leading up to this. And they reached the agreement immediately. So fucking crazy. And this is from this article. Under the original deal, OpenAI agreed to let the Pentagon use its AI systems for any lawful purpose. This is the same sort of language that Dario is having a problem with because there are a lot of legal things that the US government can do that do amount to domestic surveillance. The company also negotiated terms that allowed it to uphold its so-called safety principles by installing specific technical guardrails on its technology. But on Monday night, OpenAI said the deal had been amended to say its AI systems shall not be intentionally used for domestic surveillance of US persons and nationals, in line with relevant federal laws, which it named in the contract. Like, again, tying it to the legal system doesn't seem very effective. What happens if laws change? That seems like a distinct possibility. It's also just funny, like, okay, you can spy if it's by accident. Just don't do it intentionally. So then what do they just have to add like a little whoops after every time they spy on American citizens? The Defense Department said in a statement that it will always come to the table for reasonable discussion as we did with OpenAI. Anthropic didn't want to do that because they have their own personal vendettas. Like, what the fuck? You know, this is the breakup. This is where you're getting the story from. See, I can agree to stuff. Look at our deal with OpenAI. We agreed to stuff. Anthropic just is like crazy. Anthropic's just crazy. They don't know. They're just crazy. They don't know what they want. They don't know. They don't make any sense. And then this was that same day, February 7th, Hegseth posts this big ass tweet. This week, Anthropic delivered a masterclass in arrogance and betrayal, as well as a textbook case of how not to do business with the United States government or the Pentagon. Our position has never wavered and will never waver. The Department of War must have a full, unrestricted access to Anthropic's models for every lawful purpose in defense of the Republic. Instead, Anthropic and its CEO, Dario Amadei, have chosen duplicity, cloaked in the sanctimonious rhetoric of effective altruism. I'm just as annoyed at effective altruism as Pete Hegseth is, but not for the same reason. They've attempted to strong-arm the United States military into submission, a cowardly act of corporate virtue signaling that places Silicon Valley ideology above American lives. I can understand where Dario's coming from. I just think he's an idiot. And when he's dealing with these transparently self-interested, egomaniac fascists, or just fucking businessmen, whatever, if there's even a difference. They understand the world more than him. Even through their fascist lens, they're like, yeah, we're not going to do that shit, man. What the fuck are you talking about? You're like virtue signaling effective altruism bullshit. Like, he is right about this. The terms of service of Anthropic's defective altruism, nice burn there, will never outweigh the safety, the readiness, or the lives of American troops on the battlefield. Okay, buddy. Their true objective is unmistakable: to seize veto power over the operational decisions of the United States military. That is unacceptable. As President Trump stated on Truth Social, like, I mean, yeah, I don't think that's true, but whatever. Like, I just have to think he's saying that the objective, the goal of the fucking of Anthropic was, oh, we're gonna put in the contract that we get to say yes or no every time the Pentagon wants to bomb someone. Like, and that's going to be how we secretly take over the government. Like, that's what he thinks. No, I mean, yeah, that would effectively be what would have to happen if they agreed to Anthropic's things. Give them an opportunity to say no anytime the Pentagon asks Anthropic to do something. But like, yeah, obviously that was never going to happen. Obviously that was not going to happen. You would have to be a complete fucking idiot like Dario to think that these negotiations would ever happen. And I do think that he's kind of an idiot, because, I mean, like, either way, he's an idiot. He's an idiot for proposing it in this idealistic sense, and he would be an idiot if he was doing it actually as a way to take over the government, to seize veto power over the operational decisions of the United States military. Either one, whether he's doing it for evil reasons or well-meaning reasons, you'd have to be so stupid to even propose that. Yeah, very, very stupid move by him. As President Trump stated on Truth Social, the commander-in-chief and the American people are alone will determine the destiny of our armed forces. Yet the American people? No, man. You think the American people ever want to go to war? Think the American people ever agree with what the fucking Pentagon wants to do? No, man. The commander-in-chief and the fucking joint chiefs of staff, they're the ones who determine the destiny of your armed forces. Like, fuck are you talking about? Like, the American people alone. Fuck off. Anthropic's stance is fundamentally incompatible with American principles. True. Their relationship with the United States Armed Forces and the American principles of surveilling its own citizens and dropping bombs on children's schools autonomously. Their relationship with the U.S. Armed Forces and the federal government has therefore been permanently altered. In conjunction with the president's directive, see, I actually don't think this was written by AI, weirdly. Like, I know it's long, but it sounds like something Pete Hegseth would say, all of this. So maybe it's at least written by his like speechwriter or something. In conjunction with the president's directive for the federal government to cease all use of Anthropic's technology, I am directing the Department of War to designate Anthropic a supply chain risk to national security. Effective immediately, no contractor, supplier, or partner that does business with the United States military may conduct any commercial activity with Anthropic. Anthropic will continue to provide the Department of War its services for a period of no more than 6 months. It's like, you piece of shit, and you have to still work for us for the next 6 months in order to see for a seamless transition to a better and more patriotic service. It's like, that's pretty fucked up. America's war fighters will never be held hostage by the ideological whims of big tech, except for Peter Thiel, I guess. This decision is final. Okay, cool. So that all happened on the same day. Anthropic's out, OpenAI's in, and Hegseth puts them on the, what's it called? They are designated as a supply chain risk to national security. Basically designated Anthropic as like fucking a terrorist organization. Like, not great. Not good for Anthropic on a business sense. All right, next day, February 28th. Are there any M dashes? Good question. No, we got N dashes only. You can see one right there in that first paragraph at the top there. Submission space, N dash space, A. See? Next day, OpenAI posts our agreement with the Department of War. And they're like, our agreement is actually just as good as the one Anthropic was trying to get. So I don't know what's up with that. We think our agreement has more guardrails than any previous agreement for classified AI deployments, including Anthropic's. Here's why. We have 3 main red lines. no use of OpenAI technology for mass domestic surveillance, no use of OpenAI technology to direct autonomous weapon systems, and no use of OpenAI technology for high-stakes automated decisions, example, systems such as social credit. Social credit's a funny one to put in there, considering Emil's history as the guy on the clout team. But so they're like, we actually had another thing too about social credit. So like, it's actually even better than Anthropic's deal. And in the thing they put, here's what you may be asking. Why could you reach a deal when Anthropic could not? Did you sign the deal they wouldn't? Based on what we know, we believe our contract provides better guarantees and more responsible safeguards than earlier agreements, including Anthropic's original contract. We think our red lines are more enforceable here because deployment is limited to cloud only, keeps our safety stack working in the way we think is best, and keeps cleared OpenAI personnel in the loop. We don't know why Anthropic could not reach this deal, and we hope that they and more labs will consider it. Do you think Anthropic should be designated as a supply chain risk? No, and we have made our position on this clear to the government. It's like so crazy. It's like also part of this guy's backstory. He was one of the founding members of OpenAI. And one of the reasons he left was because he was like, Sam Altman is a psycho. He's a sociopath. He's a liar. He lies a lot, even for a Silicon Valley CEO. Like he makes shit up constantly. So they're like, no, we made the same deal. But if you've actually gone through the red line contracts they're saying back and forth, it's not right that like their contract provides better guarantees. They also updated it to put the official words in the contract. It says, consistent with the new language reads, consistent with applicable laws, including the Fourth Amendment, the AI system shall not be intentionally used for domestic surveillance of U.S. persons and nationals. That is exactly the thing that Dario was fighting against. He's like, yeah, but it is legal for you to do that. So we have to go beyond that. Like I think his argument would be like, it makes perfect sense that the US government is allowed to spy on its own citizens. That is totally fine in a pre-AI world. But now that we have Claude and Anthropic and AI, it's like, this is a totally different thing. And now we need new laws and we can't just have, whatever. I think that would be his argument. Like we need to change the laws. We can't just use laws built in a pre-AI world now that AI is here. Like I think that would be his argument. But like, yeah, this is the thing that Dario said no to. And he's like, I don't know why they couldn't do it because blah, 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 blah. For the avoidance of doubt, the department understands this limitation to prohibit deliberate tracking, surveillance, or monitoring of U.S. persons or nationals, including through the procurement or use of commercially acquired personal or identifiable information. All very vague, right? Now, this was sent out a few days later, March 3rd. And this is from someone where was she again? It says it actually in this article. Yes. Okay. A Commerce Department official, Olivia Bradley, emailed others at the Commerce Department saying, hey guys, sorry for the late night email. The Secretary's office has asked that we identify as soon as possible any contracts and subcontracts we have with Anthropic or for its products. They've asked for a response as early as possible tomorrow morning. Will all of you please review your contracts and confirm we do not have any contracts with Anthropic? You probably need to work with your CIOs to determine if you have any contracts. Like they're like, we're done. Like, it's like the end of a breakup and you're like ripping your old, love letters apart and like burning all your old photos. And you're like, and not only that, I don't even want your shit. Like all the fucking gifts you've got, birthday gift, Christmas gifts over the years, you throw them out the window, let them shatter on the fucking concrete. Like that's what this is all about. Like we got to get rid of all Anthropic stuff because they're not patriots. They didn't believe. All right, hang on. What's this? Okay, so that was Tuesday, March 3rd. And then internally inside the company, Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei sent a 1,600-word memo to employees on Friday, which I believe was February 27th. I think it was. Yeah. So this was on that same day. Yo, Rosette, thank you for the 5 gift subs. What's up? Welcome to the Cabal, everybody. Awesome. Yes. Let's keep this energy going. Gay. Oh man. All the extra bonus stuff you get. Like these cute gobmojis. Look at that. Welcome. And you get a little goblin head next to your name. Very cool. Thanks, Rosa. That's so sick of you. But anyway, so on that same day, Dario sent out an internal memo to his own employees, and it leaked. And this is what it says. He goes, I want to be very clear on the messaging that is coming from OpenAI and the mendacious nature of it. Mendacious. There's a $3 word. This is an example of who they really are. And I want to make sure everything sees it for what it is. Everything sees it for what it is? Usually people would say everyone sees it for what it is, but maybe he's also including like AI. Maybe he's including Claude in that. I want to make sure that all of our robots understand what really went down here. Although there is a lot we don't know about the contract they signed with Dow, Department of Defense. See what I'm talking about? Like publications they still call it the Department of Defense, but it's actually Department of War for all intents and purposes. Although there's a lot we don't know about the contract they signed with DOW, and that maybe they don't even know as well. It could be highly unclear. We do know the following. And so he's also talking about Sam Altman's response on the website, our agreement with the Department of War. So he's bringing this up. Sam Altman's description of the DOW gives the strong impression, although we would have to see the actual contract to be certain, that how their contract works is that the model is made available without any legal restrictions, all lawful use, but that there is a safety layer, which I think amounts to model refusals that prevents the model from completing certain tasks or engaging in certain applications. All lawful use. And then this is a meme that some AI guys have been posting. What lawful purposes? What lawful purposes do you want to use it for? Which honestly, fair. The general sense is that I like how he says that. I'm really hitting that hard in my impression of him. He sort of say it like that, like that. Our general sense is that these kinds of approaches, while they don't have zero efficacy, are in the context of military applications, maybe 20% real and 80% safety theater. Right. And I think he's right about that. I think that like this is safety theater because all of these fucking things they've added are there's like massive loopholes in all of these. You know, the way that OpenAI put it on their fucking blog post seems pretty straightforward. But if you actually read the language, it says consistent with applicable laws, consistent with this, like it's safety theater. And then he goes even further. So he's right here. He says, there may be, in the concept of military, it's 20% real, 80% safety theater. And then later he goes, the kind of safety layer stuff that Palantir offered us and presumably offered OpenAI is even worse. Our sense was that it was almost entirely safety theater and that Palantir assumed that our problem was you have some unhappy employees, you need to offer them something and that placates them or makes what is happening invisible to them. And that's the service we provide. It's like, brother, you're working with Palantir. Have you read Lord of the Rings? Have you seen the movies? They're called Palantir. Did you think that they were nice? Did you think that they were like out for the good of the fucking country? They are evil. Dude, very little like sympathy for this. So overall, what I'm saying here is that the approaches OpenAI has taken mostly do not work. The main reason OpenAI accepted them and we did not is that they cared about placating employees and we actually cared about preventing abuses. They don't have zero efficacy and we're doing many of them as well, but they are nowhere near sufficient for purpose. It is simultaneously the case that the DOW did not treat OpenAI and us the same here. It's like double standard talk. And we were not treated the same. He's trying to have it both ways here, right? Where he's like, they agreed to stuff with them that they never would have with us. But like, also we wouldn't have agreed with them anyway. It's like, okay, so anyway, whatever. It wouldn't have been good enough, but they didn't even offer us that deal. We actually attempted to include some of the same safeguards as OpenAI in our contract. In addition, and keep in mind, this is a letter from him to his own employees. So he must have been which makes sense, right? Because you can imagine being him and being like, seeing the OpenAI put up this thing where it's like, yeah, I don't know why Anthropic didn't work out because it seems like we got everything that we asked for, which is the same thing that they wanted. And he's like, I look so stupid right now. My employees probably are thinking about leaving and going over to OpenAI. It's like, listen, Dario, I got into the AI science game because I wanted to help Israel bomb schools in Iran. You know, like that's what I wanted. And for you to totally fuck up like this and lose us our Pentagon contract, I have to go. So he's writing to like reassure people of what happened. We actually attempted to include some of the same safeguards, and the DOW rejected them.
with us. We have evidence of this in the email chain of the contract negotiations. I'm writing this with a lot to do, but we might get some of the follow-up with the actual language. Thus, it is false that OpenAI's terms were offered to us and we rejected them. At the same time, it is also false that OpenAI's terms meaningfully protect them against domestic mass surveillance and fully autonomous weapons. Finally, there's some suggestion in SAM/OpenAI's language that the red lines we're talking about, fully autonomous weapons and domestic mass surveillance, are already illegal. And so an AUP about these is unnecessary. This mirrors and seems coordinated with DOW's messaging. It is, however, completely false. As we explained in our statement yesterday, the DOW does have domestic surveillance authorities that are not of great concern in a pre-AI world, but take on a different meaning in a post-AI world. Notably, near the end of the negotiation, the DOW offered to accept our current terms if we deleted a specific phrase about the analysis of bulk acquired data, which was a single line in the contract that exactly matched the scenario we were most worried about. We found that very suspicious. On autonomous weapons, the DOW claims that human in the loop is the law, but they are incorrect. It is currently Pentagon policy set during the Biden admin that a human has to be in the loop of firing a weapon. But that policy can be changed unilaterally by Pete Hegseth, which is exactly what we are worried about. So it is not, for all intents and purposes, a real constraint. A lot of OpenAI and DOW messaging just straight up lies about these issues or tries to confuse them. And I did find the thing he's talking about. So here's an email from Dario to Emil. This is February 20th, so very close to the day that it all fell apart, the 27th. And he goes, "Dear Emil, hope you're also well, and thanks for the red line, which is very helpful at this stage. I'm attaching here further revisions that would propose to section 14 and 15, based on our current understanding of your text and concerns and questions about your last message." So here's section 15, right? This is one of the changes they made. So you can see the changes are in red and the original is in black. The Department of War will use the AI system for all lawful use cases in accordance with applicable U.S. law and established Department of War directives, including those governing kinetic operations and DoD Directive 3000.09. Outside of training and simulation, the department affirms it will ensure appropriate human oversight is in place, consistent with its operational requirements and safety protocols. And that's where they wanted to leave it, the Pentagon. But then Anthropic adds in, and that it shall monitor and retain the ability to override or disable the AI system when used in autonomous target selection or engagement, autonomous weapons development, or autonomous operation of CBRN facilities, blah, 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 blah. It goes on. Then finally, at the end, it says, with respect to publicly available information, this limitation applies only to the bulk collection or analysis of such information. And so this is the part where he's like, they agreed to accept our terms if we deleted this phrase about the analysis of bulk acquired data. It's a little bit confusing because that has to do with surveillance, right? I didn't copy it, but I remember reading an email from Emil where he's like, but if we sign this contract, that would make it illegal for us to use Claude to do a search on LinkedIn. It would make it illegal for us to use Claude to search for a public profile on Facebook. That's what they're talking about here. This limitation applies to bulk collection or analysis of information. It's like Anthropic, that's what Anthropic is literally built on. Like Anthropic is built on the bulk collection of like internet data and then training the AI on it. So I don't know, it's kind of rich for him to be like, but you're not allowed to do that because that is actually pretty bad. I don't know, that's how I'm reading it. I think these facts suggest a pattern of behavior I've seen often from Sam Altman, and I want to make sure people are equipped to recognize. He started out, so this is like, what's the pattern of behavior with Sam Altman? It's the same thing as what everyone always says. He lies. He cannot stop lying. The dude lies. He lies to placate people. He lies to make people let him do what he wants to do. He disinforms his own employees about what's been approved, what hasn't been approved, so he can just be like, yeah, so go do it. Go do it because the safety team already approved it. They haven't. He lies to his board. He lies to everyone. So this is the pattern of behavior. He started out this morning by saying he shares Anthropic's red lines in order to appear to support us, get some of the credit, and not be attacked when they take over the contract. He also presented himself as someone who wants to set the same contract for everyone in the industry. E.g., he's presenting himself as a peacemaker and deal maker. Behind the scenes, he's working with the DOW to sign a contract with them to replace us the instant we are designated a supply chain risk. Actually, even before that. It's like they had already taken over before they were designated as supply chain risk. But he has to do this in a way that doesn't make it seem like he gave up on the red lines and sold out when we wouldn't. He's able to superficially appear to do this because, one, he can sign up for all the safety theater that Anthropic rejected, and that the DOW and partners are willing to conclude in presenting us as compelling to his employees. And two, the DOW is also willing to accept some terms from him that they were not willing to accept from us. Both of these things make it possible for OAI to get a deal when we could not. So it's interesting, like, again, he's trying to have it both ways, right? I guess he's saying that Sam Altman is trying to have it both ways, or Sam Altman got it both ways. He signed up for all the safety theater, the stuff that doesn't actually help, but sounds good. And also the DOW was willing to give OpenAI a few extra things that they were absolutely not going to give Anthropic. Why is that? His explanation? The real reasons DOW and the Trump admin do not like us is that we haven't donated to Trump, while OpenAI, Greg Brockman, OpenAI's president, have donated a lot. We haven't given dictator-style praise to Trump, while Sam has. We have supported AI regulation, which is against their agenda. So funny to say. That's because OpenAI has also supported AI regulation. Like Sam Altman has like testified in front of Congress. You need to regulate us because we are going to like change the world. This is all part of their like mutual kind of kayfabe. We've told the truth about a number of AI policy issues like job displacement, and we've actually held our red lines with integrity rather than colluding with them to produce safety theater for the benefit of employees. So he's saying that the reason OpenAI is doing this is just for its own employees. I would say that is a very close-minded view of things, because there are more people that you should care about, Dario, than just the people who work for you. I think that Sam Altman wanted to produce the safety theater. Like, I agree with that it's pretending to be faked. I agree with all that shit. But to be like, he's doing it just for his own employees so they don't leave because they don't want to work for an evil company. And it's like, no, he's not just doing that. Maybe that's part of it, but he's doing that as well for like the world, because he doesn't want the world to think of OpenAI as an evil company. That's what this is. If it was just for employees, why is this blog post public? You know? He goes on to say, which I absolutely swear to you is what literally everyone at DOW, Palantir, our political consultants, etc., assumed was the problem we were trying to solve. He's like, when he was negotiating with, and I looked through the emails, they didn't state this explicitly at any point, but it's interesting because he got the impression anyway that Emil Michael was like, oh, okay, you're worried about autonomous weapons and surveillance. I know what you're really saying. You want your employees to think you could give a shit about that. All right. Well, here's some like random security theater shit. And he's like, no, I actually care about this. And he's like, right. So here's a sentence that doesn't mean anything, but seems like it means something. It'll be in there. Anyway, Sam is now, with the help of the DOW, trying to spin this as if we were unreasonable, we didn't engage in a good way, we were less flexible, etc. I want people to recognize this as the gaslighting it is. Okay, my fucking Dario impression is completely off the rails. So this got leaked. Honestly, don't agree with everything in there, but it's a good look for him when this got leaked. He looks like he has integrity. I think he has like integrity in the way that he genuinely was trying to make this happen. I just think he's a dumbass and also already fully complicit in the fucking US military industrial complex. Like, am I going to give a shout out to like the Raytheon guy who worked with the US, like the Pentagon for years, and then was like, hey, I don't think we should be building bombs that specifically only target babies. And the Pentagon was like, you have to. And then they said no. And then, got kicked out, and then another fucking defense contractor jumped in and took their place like immediately. I'm not going to give them a huge round of applause. But okay, so this thing that got leaked, he wrote, I think on the 27th or 28th. I got 28th probably. It's 28th because that's when the OpenAI posted their blog post. But it was leaked on March 4th. Then March 5th, there's an official statement on the Anthropic page, and it undoes, in my opinion, any goodwill that I had towards Dario from that leaked one where he's like, it's because I didn't give Trump dictator-style praise. He's like, well, let me give Trump dictator-style praise now. Okay, we are, guys, no. That's not true. We've been having productive departments. We're very proud of the work we did together at the department. We do not believe it's the role of Anthropic to be involved in the operational decision making. That is the role of the military. We totally don't want to do that. I want to apologize directly for a post internal to the company that was leaked. Anthropic did not leak this post, nor did we direct anyone else to do so. Yeah, I didn't think that you did. What do you mean? We didn't leak it or tell anyone to leak. Yeah, I didn't think that you did do that. I think somebody leaked it. I guess he's saying it's not like a limited hangout. Like they didn't leak it on purpose. It's not in our interest to escalate this situation. That particular post was written within a few hours of the president's Truth Social post announcing Anthropic would be removed from all federal systems, the Secretary of War's X post announcing the supply chain risk designation, and the announcement of a deal between Pentagon and OpenAI, which even OpenAI later can characterize as confusing. It was a difficult day for the company. It's like even OpenAI agreed. Sorry, I apologize for the tone of the post. It does not reflect my careful or considered views. It was also written 6 days ago. It's written 6 days ago, okay? It is not aged well. It's an out-of-date assessment of our current situation. No, I think it was accurate. Our most important priority is making sure that our war fighters, God, I hate that term. That sounds like something Pete Hegseth says. Our war fighters. It's like the fascist version of taxpayers or something. National security experts are not deprived of important tools in the middle of major combat operations. Yeah, okay, you guys are still fucking war contractors. Great. Okay, so you all suck. We have much more in common with the Department of War than we have differences. We're both committed to advancing U.S. national security. This is like after the breakup, and the guy's like, but we can get back together, like, as long as we can just explain. We're perfect for one another. We're so alike, okay? We're committed. Like this time I'm different. We're going to help the US defend its interests. I promise. All right. Okay. Now, so fucking this dude did a fucking shit eating tour. Okay. He goes on, does like a couple of interviews. So one he does with The Economist. And this is actually, now I didn't know this. This is actually Zanny Minton Beddoes. I don't know how to say that. That's a crazy name though. Zanny Minton Beddoes. She is the editor-in-chief of The Economist. She's a big deal. The Economist. Here she is at the World Economic Forum. She's in the Bilderberg group. She was one of 113 invitees to the 2015 Bilderberg conference. She's big.
You're a New World Order shill.
You know, she's a New World Order shill. Finland said Lenin had a quote about The Economist. That's pretty funny. Magazine for billionaires or something like that, or millionaires. Vladimir Lenin's views on The Economist magazine. Yeah, there you go. Vladimir Lenin died on this day in 1924. He dismissed our newspaper as a journal which speaks for British millionaires. Yeah. He's not wrong. He certainly was not wrong. His perception of the magazine is representing capitalist interest over those of the proletariat. Now, I have to say, whenever I look at the comments of these videos, the comments are all like, wow, he's so cool. Well, okay, not all of them, I guess. This one, the top one isn't. Poor fellow's just saying what we all think and is paying for it. He should not have apologized. Oh, he was honest and paid a price for that? Oh, blah, 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 blah. He's trying to save his company. Don't apologize for having integrity. Just signed up and paid for an annual subscription to Claude. There's like a lot of this stuff. But okay, let's watch the magazine that speaks for British millionaires, billionaires, really. You know, that was a different time when Lenin said it. Let's watch the editor-in-chief of this magazine really fucking push this guy's nose in it. Like she's trying to fucking train a puppy, all right, to stop shitting inside. Here we go. The shit-eating tour.
You said that the real reason for this impasse was that you hadn't lavished, quote, dictator-style praise on President Trump. Do you regret having said that?
Could she have, just for this one question, could she have not had the evil, like, I don't know, ice switch smirk on her face?
So I want to completely apologize for this memo. So I want to make sure that people understand, right? Like this was something written on Friday after the following three things had happened. The president tweeted removing all Anthropic services from the federal government. The Secretary of War tweeted designating us a supply chain risk with a kind of broader version of the designation than the one that ultimately ended up actually being applied. And then there was this deal between one of the other AI model providers and the Department of War that I think even that model provider later described as, I don't remember the exact words, but I was going to say confusing, right? So basically all these three things said happened within a few hours, in kind of sequence, from each other. We didn't know ahead of time what was going to happen, when it was going to happen. So it was among the most disorienting times in kind of Anthropic's history.
Okay.
The other side of it is, I think Anthropic has an internal culture where I post a lot. Like some people describe this as a memo. I wouldn't describe it as that. Like I post things in Slack, I post them a lot. And the culture within the company is that I'm very free, and it's not like a considered, it's not like a really considered or refined version of my thinking, right? It's not what I would say on reflection.
You've been very clear now. You've apologized for the memo. Have you apologized to President Trump? Will you apologize to him?
I've apologized to the people that I've talked to within the DOW. I'm happy to speak to others within the administration as well. I kind of don't know what will happen in the future, but I'm really happy to I'm really happy to speak to anyone.
Yeah, that was that interview. I would say, for me, this comes off as like pathetic. Like this guy is a billionaire. He's running like one of the big two, really, like OpenAI companies in America. And yet he's still got to do this shit. Like you got fuck you money, but you can't say fuck you. He's still got to fucking like kiss Trump's ass. Like he's got to sit through this interview with this woman when she asks him, have you apologized to Trump?
Have you apologized to President Trump?
Like, brought him on here to grovel about the memo and let's get your apology on camera. But have you actually apologized to the guy whose feelings you probably hurt the most? like unbelievable. Okay, this is another one. And I just want to do something here because I got this new Chrome extension that allows me to bookmark parts of the video. I just want to play all of the questions that this CBS, Bari Weiss's CBS interviewer asks Dario Amodei. I think, oh God, what's her name? Who's the roast comic? Is it Nikki Glaser? Yeah, it's Nikki Glaser. Nikki Glaser had the joke about CBS News. She's like, CBS News, America's favorite place to see BS News. So anyway, this is all the questions that she asked. And I'm just going to run through these pretty quick.
We appreciate you taking the time. You are Dario Amodei. My first question to you is, why won't you release Anthropic's AI without restrictions to the U.S. government?
Yeah, so, we should maybe back up a bit for a little bit of context. So, Anthropic actually has been the most lean forward of all the AI companies in working with the U.S. government.
Next one.
The Pentagon has told us that they have agreed in principle to these two restrictions, and they wanted to strike a deal. Why couldn't an agreement be reached?
So there were.
The president posted today in response to the situation, their selfishness, referring to Anthropic, is putting American lives at risk, our troops in danger, and our national security in jeopardy. What do you think? What's your response?
So,
why do you think that it is better for Anthropic, a private company, to have more say in how AI is used in the military than the Pentagon itself?
So first I would say, and I think this is an important point.
But in the name of fundamental principles, why should Americans trust you, the CEO of a private company, to make these decisions instead of the federal government?
Well, I would give two answers to that. One, we are.
So you say you've done so much for U.S. national security. You're adhering to these two restrictions that you want to keep. Do you think that Anthropic knows better than the Pentagon here?
We don't look. One of the things about.
Awesome.
There are so many other companies out there that do business with the U.S. government. Boeing builds aircraft for the U.S. military. Boeing doesn't tell the U.S. military what to do with that aircraft. How is this any different?
Again, I would say two ways that it's different. One, I would point again to the newness.
But if that pace continues apace,
yes,
then the U.S. government will never be caught up. So how does that logic apply if you have long argued that you want to work with the U.S. government to provide, the appropriate national security? If it's going to be such a fast development for the foreseeable future, Congress can't catch up, then why turn your back on this?
I think there's only catching up once. right? So the pace of
Trump has called Anthropic a left-wing woke company. Is this decision at all driven by ideology?
I can't speak for
That's a left-wing woke company. So funny. I missed that he'd called it that. Can I pull that up real quick? I bet I can. Yeah, okay, this is the one. Oh my God, it's so good. The United States of America will never allow a radical left woke company to dictate how our great military fights and wins wars. That decision belongs to your commander-in-chief and whose tremendous leaders I appoint to run our military. The left-wing nutjobs at Anthropic have made a disastrous mistake trying to strong-arm the Department of War and force them to obey their terms of service instead of our Constitution. Their selfishness is putting American lives at risk, our troops in danger, and our national security in jeopardy. Therefore, I'm directing every federal agency in the United States government to immediately cease all use of Anthropic's technology. We don't need it, we don't want it, and we'll not do business with them again. There will be a 6-month phase-out period for agencies like the Department of War using Anthropic's products at various levels. Anthropic better get their act together. And they better be helpful during this phase-out period, or I will use the full power of the presidency to make them comply with major civil and criminal consequences to follow. We will decide the fate of our country, not some out-of-control, radical left AI company run by people who have no idea what the real world is all about. I mean, that's true. That's 100%. That's right. They don't understand what the real world is all about. They really thought that they could do this. He's right. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. President Donald Jonathan Trump. Yeah, that's amazing. I can't believe I didn't include that in my frickin' Obsidian board. Obsidian, right? Right, guys, you know? Donald J. Trump. Amazing poster. Incredible poster. One of the greatest posters of all time. Everything he says is funny, even when it's like threatening people's lives. Even when I shouldn't like it. I love it. Okay. You were listening to Interview, CBS News. But yeah, just like notice how all of these questions are really, really pointed. It's trying to make the Pentagon look good. You know, it's trying, like, and I don't even like Dario, right? Obviously, but all of these questions are like, but why would you think that it's a good idea to tell the Pentagon that they're not supposed to do it? And it's just, yeah, it's all very, like, this is clearly, CBS News has become like the new Fox. It's like a propaganda arm for the fucking Trump White House. All right, what else we got here?
At a moment with the president right now, tonight, what would you say to him?
You know,
if you had a moment with the president right now tonight, what would you say to him?
Do you think Anthropic can survive this as a business?
You know, when Secretary Hegseth tweeted out the supply chain designation, he said something that was inaccurate, that far exceeds.
Anyway, I didn't even really care about what he says in there, but like, this is the shit-eating tour I'm talking about. He had to go on all these things, be like, I'm so sorry. Yeah, you're right. The government should be allowed to do whatever they want. And it was crazy for us to act differently, you know, very much groveling apology, not cool, not fun. And that's it. Yeah, there's some things in here in this, leaked letter he'd written to his staff, this memo, as people call it, that he'd claimed it's in the emails. I'll back it up once it gets released. And now that the emails are released, I mean, yeah, I would say it pretty much is what most people expected, probably, right? That this dude is just evil and is trying to get whatever he wants out of Dario with zero compromise. And is just kind of like bullying him and badgering him and not letting him, not giving him anything. And then this guy who's so delusional, he thought that he could have a nice conversation with the Pentagon where he'd be like, well, we're not going to kill anyone, right? We're only going to be good guys, right? And he fucking lost. He lost the contract. This dude, whatever, like fucked him over. But then like Hegseth and Trump went full angry, jaded ex-girlfriend on him. You know, like, I'm going to ruin your life type shit. I'm going to put you on a special supply chain risks and national security list. Yeah, it's quite intense. And at the end of the day, yeah, nobody's really a winner here. And it's not really a feel-good story, you know? It's like, okay, so Anthropic lost that, but this did turn out to be a lot of good PR for them. Like the one possibility The one possibility I can sort of see here where Dario isn't a complete fucking moron is maybe he did this all on purpose because he knew going, like when he was negotiating with Pentagon, he knew they would say no. He just wanted proof of them asking for these things so that inevitably when OpenAI is involved in some fucking horrifying, like Cambridge Analytica times 1,000 style scandal with the Pentagon and Palantir, US government, whatever, they get involved in something where it's very clear that they knew they were spying on American citizens. And when that happens, he wanted to be able to say that, oh no, but look, when I was negotiating with them, I was trying to put in these safeguards and I was trying to blah, blah, blah. And they said no. Like that's the only option here for me. But I mean, it just doesn't play for me though. I mean, I don't know. I'm not everybody. As we can see from the comments on all these videos, a lot of people they love him now. Reading the comments on that CBS News thing, this is the best ad for Anthropic ever. When a private company respects the Constitution more than the government, 2026 is wild. He looks exhausted. Standing your ground against the government cannot be an easy thing to do, so kudos to him and Anthropic for integrity and backbone. That guy has values and morals. You cannot fake that level of integrity. He and Anthropic are on the right side of history. So it's like everyone got what they wanted. The US, like the Pentagon got their fucking yes man AI, like obsequious AI CEO and Sam Altman. They got their AI that'll let them do whatever the fuck they want with OpenAI, ChatGPT. And fucking Dario got what he wanted, where he gets to look like the clean coal guy or the alternative, good, kinder, gentler AI. So at the end of the day, I don't know, it just all around sucks. Finally, a CEO and tech company with some balls. No, man, that's not what that is. Well, all's well that ends well.